in the course of 2 weeks, Nintendo has presented two Nintendo Directs for the worldwide public, from March 26th and April the 2nd. So some of the games that we've seen announcements for the first Direct were Shadow Labyrinth. This is a 2D side-scrolling adventure game with Metroidvania-style gameplay that is available July the 18th. Gradius Origins. This is a compilation of a few Gradius games from the past that dates back from the arcades to Super Gradius 3 from the Super Nintendo. Not entirely sure when this game actually launches, but it will launch this summer for the original Switch. Marvel Cosmic Invasion. This is a 4-player, side-scrolling, online multiplayer game with Marvel characters very close to Konami's X-Men game or Captain America and the Avengers side-scrolling game from Data East. Very colorful, fast-paced, very chaotic, very fun-looking side-scrolling beat-em-up. Will take us back to those classic arcade beat-em-ups that we all love spending hundreds and hundreds of quarters on. This is definitely a classic quarter muncher at its finest. This will take you back in the days of the 90s and the late 80s of the beat-em-up side-scrolling games that we all loved, wasting many quarters or tokens at your local arcade. Grab a soda, grabbing your pizza, grabbing your hot dog or hamburger, and play these games where amongst your friends just laugh and have some chaotic fun while you're playing this game. Marvel's Cosmic Invasion comes out this holiday 2025. A former PlayStation exclusive of Everybody's Golf, Hot Shots, is coming to Nintendo Switch this year. I wouldn't know too much about Everybody's Golf's Hot Shots original launch for the PlayStation, but this game is now being ported by Bandai Namco. This game was once an exclusive to Sony's PlayStation and it is now coming to the Nintendo Switch this year. Stay tuned for when it actually drops. PlayStation exclusive game now coming to the Nintendo Switch is Patapon 1+2 Replay, and Bandai Namco is porting this game over to the Nintendo Switch. This game has a release date of July the 11th, 2025. And then we have Metroid Prime 4. This game is still on schedule for 2025, but Nintendo still has not provided a solid launch date for Metroid Prime 4. So I guess we'll have to wait just a little bit longer to find out when this game comes out. But from what we can tell on screen, this game looks pretty fantastic and we all can't wait to play this game. There are some extra details about Metroid Prime 4 that's related to the Switch 2. We will get to that in just a few moments, but Metroid Prime 4 is coming confirmed for the Nintendo Switch 1 and the Nintendo Switch 2. Stay tuned, more details about Metroid Prime 4 will be coming very soon. Nintendo has also presented a complimentary cell phone app called Nintendo Today. The purpose of this app is to share and present daily news and updates about their upcoming games or upcoming services on a daily basis. Now, we don't know too much about this app. It is out now. The app is available today on Android and iPhone devices. I am going to have to download this app and try it out for myself to see just how well this app will update on a normal basis. If this app does provide daily updates like they advertise, but they will be using this app in conjunction with the Switch 2. This will be a live newsletter app to provide any and all Nintendo related news, updates, and game information on a daily basis right in the palm of your hands. Nintendo Today. This app is available right now through all major handheld digital storefronts. Let's get to the meat and potatoes between both directs. They gave us a lot of details that we questioned, but also leave some questions still unanswered. but let's get down to it. Today, we've seen the exclusive look at Mario Kart World, exclusive for the Nintendo Switch 2. This appears to be a standard Mario Kart game that is completely open world. It is advertised that you as the player can travel just about virtually anywhere within the game's massive world map. Multiple locations, free roaming, very similar to Forza Horizon series. So start your engines, boys and girls. Mario Kart World meets at the starting line, June the 5th, 2025. Let's talk about system specs. So even though Nintendo did not on screen show us or give us a breakdown of the hardware specs, newsletters and publications came together later on to present us with a full spec sheet of the Nintendo Switch 2's hardware specifications. So we're going to do a quick breakdown on what we can expect from the hardware specs of the Nintendo Switch 2 that comes standard, and we're going to go right down this list. Nintendo Switch 2 comes standard with a 7.9-inch wide color gamut LCD screen. In handheld mode, it supports 1080p. The screen supports HDR10 with variable refresh rate or VRR up to 120 Hz. The CPU and GPU is a custom processor made by NVIDIA. More on that at a later time. It has a 256 GB very fast internal storage. The Switch device itself supports wireless, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. In TV mode, Nintendo Switch 2 can also be connected using a wired LAN port on the docking station, so you can use Ethernet on the docking station. More into that later. Now, once the Nintendo Switch 2 is docked, it can support up to 4K resolution upscaled at 60 frames a second on TV mode. It can also support up to 120 frames per second at lower resolutions, 1080p or perhaps 1440p, depending on the game situation and the engine. The system will support standard HDR10. Does not say anything about Dolby Vision, but it will do HDR10, so that's pretty good, even without Dolby Vision. Maximum expected resolution from handheld mode would be 1080p or lower, with standard 1080p, no higher than that. So you wouldn't be able to get 1440p in handheld mode. On television, yes, but in handheld mode, it tops out at 1080p resolution. The Nintendo Switch comes with improved speaker output. Independent closure structure provides natural, clear sound quality. So brand new improvements with the Switch's internal speakers. The system comes standard with a built-in microphone for voice chatting. We'll get more into that as well, but it does have a built-in microphone now. Nintendo Switch 2 comes with two standard USB-C ports, one on the bottom for the docking and one up top for when a player is in tabletop mode, for a player to connect a Nintendo camera accessory, more on that, or a compatible camera accessory, more on that, or you can charge within tabletop mode using a standard USB-C to your wall charger. The game slots are the same as before. Both Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch 1 game cards can be inserted into the cartridge slot. Switch 2 does come with a storage expansion port that supports only microSD Express cards. Now, it will work with the standard microSDs, but you will not be able to play games off it apparently. It can only support game saves, photos, and videos with the standard microSD. But if you have a microSD Express card, which they require you to, players will be able to install their games directly into this expansion port with a microSD Express card. It is very important and very specific that customers get this right when it comes to saving and installing their games onto Nintendo Switch's expansion port memory slots. Now, the Joy-Cons themselves have improved as well. They are enlarged now but they also have accelerometers and mouse controls. Similar to PC mouse controls or USB standard mouse controls, the Joy-Cons will act as if they are two independently working mice. More into that as news develops for multiple features for the mouse support. Battery life is expected to last between 2 and 6.5 hours depending on severity of the game's resources. To reach full charge would take close to 3 hours. Overall, Nintendo Switch 2's system specs is actually pretty good. It's actually more impressive than I initially thought it would actually be. It will bring it pretty close to current generation home console gaming as far as features and as far as horsepower. The one thing I've noticed during the unveiling of the hardware specs is the fact that there is no mention of system RAM. There's been no mention at all of the Switch 2's internal total amount of system RAM, let alone what type of RAM it is. I'm going to take a guesstimate. This machine can output 4K at 120 frames per second. Now, to do that on a PC, you would at least need a minimum of 8 gigabytes of RAM. Anything less than that, your system processor better be really, really fast and really, really good. Now, judging that the fact that this is a handheld and there's only so much power going to the system processor, the Switch 2 would have to have an abundance of RAM. No less than 8 gigs of RAM to do 4K, which is more likely going to be upscale 4K. This is something that I mentioned earlier during the breakdown of the specs. At the very least, for PCs and other current generation consoles, to obtain even upscale 4K resolution, you would need at least 6 gigabytes of RAM. And if they plan to do 4K resolution, this is while docked, if they plan to do 4K resolution at 60 frames a second or 1080p resolution at 120 frames a second, this machine, the Switch 2, in my opinion, would have to have no less than 8 gigs of RAM, but also no higher than 12. So in comparison to the other consoles, especially if you're comparing Switch 2 to the PlayStation 4 Pro, which was a 4K machine as well too, 4K upscaled, to a fully native 4K console like the Xbox One X, and to also include ray tracing, this machine would have to have minimum 8 gigs of RAM and no more than 12 gigs. And then, what kind of RAM is this? It would have to be fast RAM, right? At the very least, the RAM would have to be GDDR5 RAM, possibly GDDR6. GDDR5, yeah, it would have to have minimum 6 gigs, maximum 12. If it's less than 6 gigs of RAM, it would have to be extremely fast RAM. Someone is going to disclose what kind of RAM this machine has. If you're gonna cram that little RAM or that much RAM into the Switch 2, it better be really fast. And with speed comes heat, and the fans would have to be pretty powerful enough to cool the circuitry. It would have to cool the sock and the RAM at the same time. And as far as I know, this machine does not have a heat sink on it. So RAM would have to be abundant, or RAM would have to be really, really fast. We'll find out once we get a system breakdown from someone such as Digital Foundry. I have a feeling that Digital Foundry is going to really want to get their hands on it just to verify system specs that have not been disclosed, and that is the number one culprit: RAM. Nintendo Switch 2's total amount of RAM and the type of RAM will be disclosed by somebody. Why is this kept a secret? Is this something that we should know? Is there something that Nintendo's hiding and that we should know? We're going to find out sooner or later after June the 5th. So it looks like Nintendo is introducing a new built-in feature for the Switch 2 called Game Chat. And Game Chat is a feature that can be launched directly from one single button on one of the Joy-Cons. I think it's on the right-handed Joy-Con, from a button that has the letter C on it. Once you click the button C that launches Game Chat, a player can contact a member on their friends list. I believe it's going to be a friends list from a system UI level calling system similar to like Skype or maybe WhatsApp or Zoom. A player can contact a person through the Game Chat and speak to them through the internal mic that's on the top of the Nintendo Switch 2. The mic is versatile and powerful enough to pick up a player's voice from across the room, maybe about between 4 to 5 feet away from the console itself, being docked in the docking station, and also supports system level noise canceling technology, so it won't pick up any miscellaneous sounds in the background while it's focusing on the speech of a player's voice. As soon as a voice is being heard, it will focus on that and cancel out any background noise that is not directly verbal. At least it looks like that's what will happen in theory. We don't know for sure how it works because we only go by what that video has shown. Players will need to extensively test that out in the real world, and results may vary, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get some decent feedback just as soon as this goes live. And this Game Chat feature will go live on day 1 with the system launch, and we'll get to that on when the system launches. Now, according to this presentation, the Game Chat will require a Nintendo Online account to take advantage of it, but Nintendo is implementing a beta version of the Game Chat during day 1, during the launch day of Nintendo Switch 2. It will be free for now, for the time being. It will launch free with the device and will remain free for all players for up to March the 31st of 2026, of when the Game Chat open access period will end. So in theory, it sounds like Nintendo needs additional beta testing, at least out from the real world. And while they're beta testing it, they will allow gamers to play with the chat and give feedback up to a full year before it is paywalled behind the Nintendo Online subscription program. After March 31st, you will need to subscribe to Nintendo Online to take advantage of the chat. Game Chat appears to emulate a Zoom call or a Skype call in real time on a Nintendo console. What the player will see when they're playing a game and they receive a call or they send a call in for their friends to join Game Chat, the game screen will shrink towards a window, and on the bottom half of the screen you'll see your friends one by one join on screen underneath your play screen. Now, a player who creates this Game Chat has the ability to control the game screen size of what they're viewing. They can have the voice chat be at the bottom with their actual game being windowed up top. Or they can choose to have their entire game screen take up the full screen of their television and just listen to their Game Chat. From what we can tell and what we've seen from this presentation, Game Chat appears to support up to 4 game chats at once and play a game together, or they can all play separate games at the same time. This presentation also demonstrated what appeared to me to be a placeholder of what the players will actually see. But if it wasn't a placeholder and what we were seeing was the real thing, then we were seeing what they're playing in low frame rate, a much lower frame rate, perhaps 3 to 5 frames per second. It's kind of hard to determine, but it's not 1-to-1. It looks kind of jarring. I'm not entirely sure I would like that on screen when I'm playing the game. I'm not even entirely sure it's very necessary to see what they're playing. Unless I'm going to use it for strategic purposes, I don't feel it's really a need to show what they're actually playing on screen. But if a player has purchased a Nintendo camera, that window could actually display the actual friend themselves on screen. watching you play whatever game you're playing in real time, and you can see their reactions on screen. Game chat also supports the feature for including a player's likeness into the game. For instance, you can play Super Mario Jamboree together in a 4 or 5 chat party lobby and have your friend's likeness, have your friend's faces plastered onto characters within the game, and it follows the character. You can see their facial expressions happen in real time while it's following that character. As a proof of concept, you can see it on screen. I could see the idea of developers possibly using someone's likeness and plastering it onto a 3D mesh of a character's face. That could be pretty cool. We've seen something similar to that with the Game Boy Advance, and this could possibly be another look, another take into that concept. I'm sure things like that will probably develop over the years if it's properly supported, if this device will continue being supported. Right now it seems as a novelty to get people to buy more hardware, but who knows? Who knows how far this actually will go? Really, all comes down to how expensive that camera is. But the Switch 2 will support, at least it does look like it will support compatible USB-C cameras that could be connected independently to the Nintendo Switch. Time will tell if game developers will use it within their games, but as it stands right now, it looks like it will be supported in at least Super Mario Jamboree, with the possibility of Mario Kart World as well. Nintendo presented us a tech demo game called Welcome Tour. Welcome Tour appears to be designed to provide players a hands-on experience with the ins and outs and technical capabilities of what the Switch 2 is capable of. Newly designed next-generation featured rumble controllers, the newly designed analog sticks, the fact that the Joy-Cons can second as mice, and other hidden features that will remain secret until day one of the system's launch. Now, for what we understand, this Welcome Tour software game will not be a free demo. This is a piece of software Nintendo deems as premium experience that will require payment to play it, which they have priced a $10 fee to download and install. Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour comes out launch day June the 5th, 2025. Now, coming back to Metroid Prime 4, as I mentioned earlier, Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch 2 has exclusive feature sets not available on the original Switch 1. One of those feature sets is the game for the Switch 2 will support mouse-like controls with the Joy-Con. So that means that the right-handed Joy-Con can be used as a full-blown mouse for shooting and interacting with the environment. And the left Joy-Con will be used for standard motion. You can play an entire game with these mouse-like controls. It's actually very pretty cool. On top of that, this version of Metroid Prime 4 will also have 2 modes of availability to play the game through. You can choose to play the game in quality mode, and quality mode offers a feature of 4K at 60 frames with HDR, which is more likely 4K upscale 4K resolution from the standard resolution, which is probably 1080p. But you also have a performance mode. That performance mode can be played in 1080p at 120 frames per second with HDR enabled. Even from this Nintendo Direct, that was specifically to focus on Switch 2 hardware and software releases, there was no follow-up release date for Metroid Prime 4. We're still led to believe this game will release in 2025, but we still do not have a release date. I'm going to predict this is probably going to be a fall game now, probably maybe October. If we're lucky, between October, but before Christmas. If this game's actually going to release in 2025, it will release before Christmas. This is not going to be like Indiana Jones. This game will release before Christmas. Hopefully this game will also release before Thanksgiving. That would be the sweet spot. If you can release Metroid Prime 4 during the holiday season of 2025, That'll be the last week and the last weekend of November, heading into the holiday shopping season. That'll be the perfect time to take advantage of day one sales for Metroid Prime 4. I do feel this game will be a better release during the holidays than probably any other time of the year. So yeah, release it during November. No later than November. Release it during that time. Earliest I like to see it release, right now. I would love to have this game in my hands by summertime. I would love it, but clearly this game is not ready. If it was ready, we would have been given a release date if it truly was ready within the next 90 days. So no, I'm afraid I'm afraid that Metroid Prime 4 will not make it to be a summer game. Prime 4 is going to be a fall to Christmas holiday season game release. I'm going to hold them to that. And if it misses this holiday, then yeah, it'll be 2026, sometime in 2026. I can live with that. I'm fine. There's plenty of games to play right here and now. So yeah, I can wait for Prime 4 if it does not release this year. But I'm going to hold Nintendo to it that this game releases 2025. We'll all find out together. Let's just have a little bit more patience. It's coming. So in the middle of this direct, Nintendo has presented pretty much a sizzle reel, back-to-back trailers with developers coming on screen to announce their immediate support for Switch 2 software, beginning with Elden Ring: The Tarnished Edition, Hades 2 from Supergiant Games, Hazelight's Split Fiction, Electronic Arts' FIFA and Madden, Warner Bros. Games' Hogwarts Legacy, Activision's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, IO Interactive's The Hitman series, along with their commitment to Project 007. James Bond is coming to the Switch 2. Square Enix Final Fantasy VII is coming to the Switch 2. Emulation for GameCube Nintendo Classics is being presented and emulated on the Nintendo Switch 2. Gearbox's Borderlands 4 is coming to the Switch. Firaxis Games' Civilization 7 is coming to the Switch 2. Along with Take-Two's NBA 2K and WWE 2K are coming. Enter the Gungeon 2, coming to the Nintendo Switch. CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077, the Ultimate Edition, is on its way to the Switch 2. And a Switch 2 exclusive from Software called The Duskbloods is coming exclusively to Nintendo Switch 2. And the one last game that they happened to show off was quite the surprise and quite awesome. They showed off an exclusive Donkey Kong game called Donkey Kong Bonanza. It is only for the Switch 2 and it looks pretty awesome. It's a 3D platformer with environmental destructibility. It looks as if virtually just about anything that you can touch can be destroyed or broken. These are large polygonal meshes, so it's not going into full fine details of destruction, but it is showing quite a bit of destruction in its environments and its characters. It's fully 3D, and as mentioned before, nearly everything he touches can be destroyed. They're also showing some classic levels from Donkey Kong Country redesigned in this new game. So it may give you the feels for classic 3D Donkey Kong Country from the Super Nintendo. Maybe some redesigns from Donkey Kong 64 is hidden in this game. We just don't know right now from this trailer. The trailer looks gloriously awesome. Game looks very fun, very animated, and very silly to play. Can't wait to get my hands on this game. Comes out this year. It actually drops July the 17th, 2025. During the time of this recording, initial Switch 2 pre-orders were scheduled for April the 9th, 2025. However, within just a day or two after this presentation, Nintendo has stepped forth and announced, due to worldwide adjustments in tariffs, Switch 2 pre-orders were being delayed until further notice. We're not entirely sure when Switch 2 pre-orders will go live now, but we suspect it should go back to being live between the time of this recording and the end of May. They formally announced that this delay in pre-orders will not affect the day one launch of June the 5th. And due to this delay with the tariffs affecting their business, they have delayed pre-orders until further notice, until they have readjusted what the new price points will be going forward for the system and their physical games. Stay tuned. At some point, Nintendo will re-announce what the new adjusted prices will be for these games. You're going to ask me what are my overall thoughts on the Switch 2. I would say the system is pretty much what I would have expected for a new handheld console from Nintendo in 2025 and beyond. It is a noticeable upgrade from the Switch 1. If we're going to compare oranges to oranges as far as its horsepower, the system would sit in between the capabilities of PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, with the fact that it could also do ray tracing. Its ray tracing capabilities, which was announced, we will see just how well this machine can actually do that. It's a handheld. I'm not expecting it to do leaps and bounds performance with ray tracing. I'm not expecting anything like that at all. It does have NVIDIA's Tensor cores, which will allow it to have the capability of ray tracing, but results will definitely vary in between game engines. Nintendo's own games probably can run it pretty good, depending on the severity of their engine. Ray tracing being implemented on something like Zelda, Metroid, perhaps even Mario Kart, should perform pretty nicely due to Nintendo's stylized graphic engines for their own games. The most realistic game they have would be Metroid. That game would contain moments of realism mixed with sci-fi from a life-size human character. Stylized graphics within Metroid can vary between realism and sci-fi fantasy. And the same can almost be said for Zelda, but that game really does have a lot of fantasy-like characters all over the place. With the exception of Link, Ganon, and Zelda herself, everyone else in the game is fantasy-like with a touch of sci-fi. But that game for decades has had a stylized cartoon-like environment. Then when you get to Mario Kart, that is all cartoon-like stylized graphics. Would I care to own a Switch 2? I would say, personally speaking for myself, at this time, I would say I don't really have a need for Nintendo Switch 2, but I would like to experience what the Switch 2 has to offer for myself in person. I would like to play this machine. But day one purchasing for the Switch 2, not at this time. The main reason being I'm not really a handheld player anymore. I've owned Nintendo's original handhelds throughout the years. The original Game Boy Advance, Virtual Boy I played, but I've never owned the Virtual Boy, plus the Nintendo DS. I really don't feel the need to continue supporting portable gaming for myself. But there's definitely a market for it. It's a strong market for portable gaming. Even though I've outgrown portable gaming and have no longer interest with supporting portable gaming, I believe there's a fundamental need for portable gaming gamers. And Nintendo has taken advantage of that. They pretty much cornered the market for that. As far as home consoles are concerned, Nintendo has definitely cornered the market for handheld gaming on the go. But it's just not for me. At this time, definitely at the time of this recording, and And that's with knowing that Metroid Prime 4 will be coming to both the Switch and the Switch 2. Besides the fact that I love what I've seen from Metroid Prime 4, I currently just at this time can't rationalize me purchasing a Switch 2 at launch. I have a Switch 1, but to be honest to myself and my listeners, I'm barely playing on the Switch at any given moment. I am a console and PC player. Mainly console. It just does not make sense for me to purchase a Switch 2 at launch. But hey, you never know what the future holds. I may change my tune after some time has gone by and view what games are actually coming from their internal studios and third-party support, let alone Xbox and possibly more software from Sony PlayStation. We'll have to see. If everybody's on board and wants to truly support the Switch 2 properly like they should, I see no reason why this machine can't eclipse the sales numbers of the Switch 1 in a shorter time. The only thing that's standing in its way would be that price. Is the price good enough for you, for me, for the world? Time will tell. Video gaming is an expensive hobby. I believe it always was. It was in the past, it is in the present, and it will continue to be in the future. It's up to you and to me to decide for ourselves. Are we still in it to win it? Or should we step down and let the next generation of players ride the next wave? Only you can decide. What will it be? And with that being said, I am Musical Weapon. Come back again. We'll do this again.